as great as the film is, it would completely change your life without exaggeration, without hyperbole. So that's the real reason I want to jump on with you, but I'd love to do some Q&A. And here's the background for 2 seconds. Joe Berlinger is one of the greatest documentarians alive, the man who made this film. He has 7 Emmy nominations, 2 victories there, a couple Academy Award nominations, a couple Peabodys, and he's done some films that if you haven't seen them, I have to encourage you to see them. I watched one called Metallica, Some Kind of Monster, which kind of documents how this heavy metal group, as they age, hate each other, they're being torn apart, and they bring a therapist in to try to put them back together. And it's a riveting film, and it's shot in like real time. And I saw it, and so I was a fan of his, and at a party we met. And as I met him and chatted with him, I had no interest in doing a documentary, but I had tremendous respect for this man. He also has made a series called Paradise Lost that is, again, incredible to see. It's a 2-decade set of 3 films he did, where he worked with some people who were 3 people that were on death row, who were innocent, and it took him 2 decades, but he literally got them free. And I met this man, and I felt in my conversation with him, as I know people, that here's this man who had everything he should be happy about. He's got Emmys, Academy Awards, he's so successful, has a beautiful family, and in my mind, if you've saved 3 lives, how could you not be fulfilled? How could you not have meaning in your life? But I sensed this cynicism, this pessimism, and this internal conflict in him. And so I said, listen, I'd love to invite you to one of my events. I invited him to Date with Destiny. In those days, it was in Palm Springs, California. And his description, he wanted to join us today, but he's on a plane. But his description he wanted me to share with you was that he felt compelled out of the conversation. He didn't know why. He said he never even takes a 6-day vacation. So to take 6 days and go to a seminar seemed like the craziest thing in the world. And so the bottom line is, he came out and the whole way he's asking himself, why am I doing this? He said he just felt pulled. And then he got to the seminar, and you got to imagine he's, as his description, cynical. He's dealt with the worst parts of life, the FBI abuse, the abuse of crude oil. He's done these incredibly harsh films where you see the worst part of society. He said, so I'm a pessimistic New York Jew, and I go in this room, and he said, I thought I was going to be anonymous. And he goes, and I see you see me. There are people there that know that I'm there. And he said, the next thing I know, 2 hours have gone by and music's going and people are high-fiving and people are talking about their innermost secrets. And he goes, and I ran for the exit as fast as I could. He literally tried to get away. And he called his wife and said, this Tony Robbins guy's such a nice man and he invited me here, but I can't stay here another 6 days. I can't stand here more 6 hours. He goes, this is crazy. This is not my thing. And his wife, Lauren, said, honey, you carved time out. Some part of you was pulled to go there. Stick it out for 1 day. And he said it was sage advice because the next day we did a process that you saw in the film. And in the film, it's like 3 or 4 minutes. In real life, it's about 45. And it's that process where I take people back through their earliest memory. And that particular seminar, I did it earlier in the program. And people go back and they think of their earliest memory, and then I have them think of a memory before that they haven't thought of, that they don't believe is there. And when you reclaim the memory that was before it, it liberates people very often from things that have been holding them back. And he said he woke, he'd been in this process 40 minutes, he opened his eyes, and he's amongst 2,500 people, and he said he was just pouring crying. And he said, in 2012 when he went, he said, I wouldn't have said that I'm a seminar guy, I'm not a self-help guy, and I'm sure as hell not a crier. He said, but I cried harder than I could remember in my whole life. And he said, I felt this incredible lightness enter my body that I can't remember having. And he said, it wasn't like, my life was perfect and there were no challenges. He just said, I felt like, wow, like there's something here I've never experienced in my life. And so he decided to stick the 6 days out, and it completely changed his life. And so while he was making the film, he told me about 4 days into it, he said, this is so cinematic. These interventions that I do, as well as, he said that he wanted to capture the 3-dimensional experience that he'd never had before. Because and I think you feel it in the film, I know I do, I hope you do too, there's a camaraderie in here amongst people who normally might not even talk to each other. If you were at a party, you probably wouldn't talk to half the people there. 71 countries, 6 languages being translated, people from every walk of life. And all of a sudden, all the barriers disappear and everybody starts not just trying to be there for themselves, but we all become committed to helping each other. And he said he'd never felt that kind of feeling in a room in his life, and he wanted to see if he could bring it from 3-dimensional experience in the 2-dimensional film and have it work. And so he had this whole idea, he was all excited. He said, I thought I'd go to Tony and say, I want to make a film. He'd go, yeah. And he came to me and I said, no. And I said no for 2 years. And the reason I said no was not because I didn't respect him. I respect him immensely. I feel like, he's like 5'6", I'm 6'7", he's Jewish, I'm Christian. He's been in the past quite skeptical, not so much now. I've been pretty optimistic. We couldn't be more opposites. But what drew me to him and what drew, I think, to each other is we're both seekers of truth. And we're not just seekers of truth, we want to find the real truth, rip it open, and bring it to people. And he's been doing that through documentaries, and I've been doing that through events. So that was our bond. But what I didn't want to do was disrupt the seminar. And as you can probably see in the seminar, we have these giant screens, kind of like you watching right now. And the idea of that was so you can see people, the intimate experience that they're having when I'm working with them, in a room of 2,500 people. But that's a long lens camera. So it's not in your face. When you go to do a documentary, it's like someone's right here while you're trying to change your life. And I said, it's just not fair to the people. I said, I'd love to do it. It's a nice concept to do a documentary, but it'll be too disruptive. And my number one priority is that. When I see 200,000 people a year, this is the only one I do with only 2,500 people. Most of the seminars are 8 to 10,000 people, so it's intimate. And then the second reason I didn't want to do it was I thought I couldn't think of any way that someone could take a 6-day program of 13, 14-hour days and put it into 2 hours or less. This is an hour and 55 minutes. It's just mind-boggling. And that is why he has the Emmy Awards. That's why he has the Academy Awards. And the way he finally convinced me was he said, look, how about I do this? I'll bring my cameras. I'll start the process. If you feel it's truly disrupting, you can end it. The documentary's over. You can have the footage for training purposes, and I lose. He said, but if I can be there and be a fly on the wall and not interrupt people, and you really believe that, then at the end of it, it's my film. I get full access pass. I get to do whatever I want. You don't have any word on it. It's got to be my film. I said, all right, you got a deal. He came in, he did it. His team was amazing. The cameras disappeared, and the magic that you saw. So even though he's not with us, can we have a big hand for Joe Valercher for producing this extraordinary film for us here? I really appreciate it.